Take two. Oh, excuse me, I had a dry throat. Welcome back to another episode of Gardenstategrowing. Once again, my name is Eric. And right now I have a lot of things sitting in front of me. And it might seem very intimidating to a very beginner gardener who's making these decisions right now that they want to start planting more from seed. They want better varieties. They want better economy out of it. Sure, joy and fun out of planting these seeds and growing them up into vegetables that you can eat. So with all that being said, the only thing that this video is going to be about, so this is going to be basic 101, planting seeds 101. I'm not even going to run you through the entire process today. I'm just going to cover pots. Now, when it comes to pots, there are so many different areas you could go. So what I want to start off with is what I consider to be, for me, for my garden, for my household, the perfect tray. And that's the 72 cell tray. The only tray that I know that's better than this, it's a lot more expensive, but it's also a lot thicker, durable, and reusable. While these usually do not make it past one season, but I'm okay with that. I have 72 plants per tray, per cell per tray. And you can get these in like 120 cell, I think 270 cell. I mean, a lot. And then those little tiny plugs are really, really, really small, if that's the route you want to go. This actually works out perfect for me. So right here is what I consider to be the best option for me and the best option for probably most people. And the thing I do like about it, it does come with a humidity dome. And I'm going to get into a little bit of planting mistakes later on in these series, so I'm not going to get into it too much, but I do appreciate that they do include a humidity dome, but you use it very, very, very limited. Let's talk about some options that I absolutely do not like. All right, so what I have here in front of me is compressed peat pots that you can directly sow into. Now, the size isn't really terrible. I kind of actually like this size. You know, if you're only growing 9 plants or 5 plants, you really don't need to start in something as small as a 72 cell. You could pretty much go straight to one of these. Now, the problem with these things is they're supposed to degrade when you plant them into the ground, and they just don't. I've seen mid-season, end of season, I've used these quite a bit before, and 9 times out of 10, this cup is still whole enough to block and trap all those roots inside of there and just turn it into a big root mess ball. So that's why I don't like these things. You know what? I'm going to plant a couple things in there this year, and I'm going to take this one thing and I'm going to plant it directly into the garden and see how poor it does. Because I know it's not going to do good. Now, there is a remedy for that. You can soak this down when you're ready to plant it into the ground and actually take a razor knife and cut and remove this to the best of your ability without disturbing the root ball too much. But by then, a lot of times the damage has already been done. The plant's already been stunted. All right, so that's why I don't like that. I wouldn't waste your money, especially with something so simple as this is readily available for you. So let's move on to the next product I do not like. And once again, this is a Jiffy's product, and I love Jiffy's, you know, but I will not endorse this product. This is those peat pellets. I don't know if you've ever seen them before. It's a hard, round, compressed disc of peat, and then when you put some water on it, it's supposed to do, I believe, like hot water. I don't know. I'll try to show you here. We'll let that soak for a while, and I'll bring it back once it's soaked up some of that water. Or that could be gin, I don't know. So once again, it's the same thing. They have like this burlap wrapper on it So when it expands, it stays in this little, like, like what you see trees wrapped in, except very fine for a little disc. It's like a paperish mesh or something. And that, once again, is supposed to dissolve as well. And my experience in the past is, unless they change the formula on these things, that does not disintegrate either. It stays. I'll show you a picture of what it looks like. These look like they have a thinner something else. So these might actually not be too bad. It's not great, but I don't know. I'm going to plant in these too. Why not? We'll see how they all turn out at the end of the season. Okay, now, when I take you downstairs to my basement later on in the series and show you my inside grow room, I have one tray that is an 18 cell tray. So it's like 2 by 2 or 2.5 by 2.5 inch cells. And those are the ones that I planted my super hots in, because I didn't want to have to up pot them too soon. I wanted to give them the best chance to grow and just leave them alone and do their thing. They're not too big that they won't wick up water, and they're not too small that they're going to need to be transplanted sooner than it needed to be. So now let's look at some other options, because it doesn't need to be complicated. It only has to do really 2 things. Keep the seed moist and wick up water, and to keep the seed moist. That's it. For most seeds, you do not want to start out in a pot too big. And even taking like this solo cup, for example, it's a nice size. It's okay. If I was going to use this for seedlings, for just seedlings, I would probably cut it down to like one of these 2 grill marks on it. So it wasn't so big, so I didn't fill the whole thing up with soil, because what ends up happening is you pack this entire thing with soil. Now you have to water all that soil, and instead of it going to the seed where it needs to be, it'll be running down to the bottom, not having a chance to wick up. It's not going to be good. Now, when it comes to pots, I really only have, well, the one rule: don't do it too big. I would never go bigger than something like this. I guess you could, but... And the other one is you need to have holes in the bottom. Now, when it comes to plastic solo cups, and everybody knows that I love to up-plant into plastic solo cups. I think these things are wonderful. I think they're cheap and they're reusable. I've used these for, I don't think I got more than 2 seasons out of them. You never know, they all get mixed in together, but that's what we have here. And you just go and take a drill bit from your kit. Now, for something like this, I'd probably go with 1/4 inch holes. But you'll see when I go to something smaller, I'll go with a smaller drill bit. I'll show you that in a minute. And you can stack them up and do 10 of them at a time. Just throw it in the middle. Takes no time at all. I don't know, 2, 3. So there you go. You have a nice, cheap transfer pot, something that's for, you're not the final living space, but between being a seedling and going out into your garden, these things are perfect. And as you can see, what I also love is the clear solo cups. Because if I up transfer into these, and I have the holes in the top, after I put a seed in the ground, like when I do my corn, I could take this and turn it over on top and make like a small little terrarium. Now, I did this with so many of my plants last year. I started off my beans this way. I did my corn that way. Anything really that I direct sowed into the ground, even my watermelons, my squashes, I did a little terrarium. Now, remember, you still have to put the holes in the top, because you can't have it completely closed in. You got to give it some oxygen, you got to give it some air, but you want to keep it tight enough that it's going to keep in moisture but not starve the plant. Now, you saw when I did these holes, I did 1/4 inch holes. If I were to do these holes, I found last year that the smaller the drill bit, the better. So I took a drill bit like this size right here, and I did like 8 holes. And they did much better because I had clear with the 1/4 inch holes. These barely kept in any of the moisture. These did fantastic. All right, so let's move on to one of the things I think makes a good seedling pot. And like I said, having holes in the bottom here. Also on all my cells, I have slits in the bottom, big nice holes in the bottom that are cut through it. And that is going to allow bottom watering. Now you may ask, what is bottom watering? Well, it's simply a technique to put water down in the bottom of a tray, and I will get to that eventually. Right now, I just want to concentrate on growing containers and growing pots and suitable seedling pots. All right, so here we have it, that little peat pellet, that little tiny, thin, little tiny peat pellet kind of blew up into this thing. All right, so it's like a perfect little ounce-sized ball of peat, which is great. And but this paper that's on the side, yeah, I don't like that at all. So maybe I'm gonna remove the paper from a couple of them, and then I'll leave the paper on another couple, and we'll see how they grow together. I stumbled over my words. All right, so I ran through my kitchen and I just quickly grabbed like the nearest things I could find we could use as some creative pot ideas, because I wanted to show you, like, I've seen it on Facebook and whatever, and they take a toilet paper tube and they cut it and then they grow a little seed in it. Well, that's exactly the same concept of using the peat pellets or the peat pots, except this is cardboard. And what I can tell you is if you unwind it like one of them biscuit tins, you can see all the glue that's in there. Now, I don't know what they made this glue out of, but I certainly don't want it leaching into my food. You know, so not only does it not disintegrate, it root bounds your plant, it probably has some nasty. I wouldn't use this in my garden. If I'm gonna use cardboard in my garden, I'm gonna use clean cardboard. So here are some other ideas. I have these leftover takeout tins from when I had my restaurant. And I mean, you could just fill this up with your starting mix and sprinkle. Onions is perfect. And like I said, I didn't like this because you can start your seeds with your onions thick and heavy. Just sprinkle them all on top. All 300 seeds, just go for it. Sprinkle them on top. And they will grow nicely. The only thing is it might be a little shallow for the roots because they do get a little long. So I might have to upgrade to something a little deeper before I just take them. Or I could just start peeling them apart and pop, dumping them in the ground. Let me see, what else do I have here? I have another one of these tins. And you know what's great about these tins? They come with a matching dome on it, just like you get for your, for your cell pots. You get a nice little humidity dome. I can't even remember what these called. I bought them in bulk. These came from the Restaurant Depot, but I know they're cheap. And then I have the old lasagna pan. Now this is just a half tray. You could do a whole tray. You don't have to do in plugs and cells. Now, I do warn you, a lot of plants, when they go to be transplanted, they don't like having their roots disturbed that much. Once again, there are exceptions. But things that don't bother being transplanted, like onions, you could go hairy-carry with this whole entire tray. And this would probably actually be better than the round one, okay? So let me show you one other little neat thing that I have, and it was so simple. I picked them up when I was at the liquor store. It was, I should say the Dollar General, shouldn't I? Right? Yeah. All right, I was at the Dollar General. And they had these little plastic shot glasses. And I said, wouldn't this little thing just be absolutely marvelous to start a seed in? It's the exact size of a cell that I want. The only thing is it doesn't have any holes at the bottom, so I need to put, some holes at the bottom. Let's see if I can do a 1/4 inch hole. That's big enough. Yep. Ooh, cracked a little. That's okay. I'm fine with that. That's what I was afraid of, though, from such a big drill bit. Maybe I'll start smaller next time. But here we go. Now all I have to do is take my medium, make sure it's damp medium, I'll teach you that later on, and put a cell in there, and then I can just line them up. Now this would be great for bunching onions, because bunching onions, you can go 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 right next to each other, and they don't care. They will just push each other out of the way, and basically what you're doing is either coming in and just trimming off the greens, or you're pulling out a whole bunch at a time, so now you have scallions. And I don't care, you know, there's like the Chinese walking onions, and there's the bunching onions, and this, and if it grows like that, it's a scallion to me. Ooh la la, I'm from Italy. What do you say? But anyway, so now you can stack these all up all the way around, and if you got yourself for, I think I paid $1 for 50 cells, that all I have to do is drill a hole through the bottom, and I get this cute little shot glass of life. So those are just some ideas. You could literally go and take the top off of a soda bottle and drill some holes in the bottom of that, and poof, you've got yourself a planter. You could get an old coffee jar that's, you know, run out of coffee, and drill some holes in the bottom and use that. Just make sure it's plastic and not metal, because metal will rust, it'll be gross. There's so many different things that you could do. Now, I completely encourage you. This is not brain science. So if you're at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of your other box stores, and you're seeing all these different options that they have there, okay, I would list the peat pellets and the peat cups as my least. I would rather use a plastic shot glass that I got for pennies on the dollar than use those things. They're not bad. They're fun. You know, watching them go poof and you know, and start a seed, but I don't think they're great, and I don't think they're worth their money. I think that peat pots were like $7.50, and then I think this was like $3 or something. When I can get this entire 72 cell tray for, oh God, I think I paid like $10 for 10 of them. Something like that. The only thing that I consider better, okay, than these trays is the commercial trays, the ones that the growers and the showers, the farmers actually use, because they can be washed out and reused time and time and time and time again. I'm just not ready to make that investment, and I'm still in the process of weeding out what looks like garbage, because I have to order it online, and I don't want to buy garbage, and I don't want to pay a lot of money for garbage either. So if I do make a decision to do that, I will bring you along for that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, take the time to hit that like button, or subscribe to this channel, or share it with your friends. This was selecting the seed cells that's right for you. Now, I didn't cover everything, because we have to take things into consideration. Are you only growing 5 plants, or are you growing 500 plants? If you're only growing 5, there's no need to upsize to such a big tray with so many planters in it. You're better off using something a little bigger, you know, and isolated, that you could fit under a small lamp. So hopefully a lot of those other things are going to be covered in the preceding videos after this. This was just about the trays, the cells, and what you can use to plant in. So I love you guys, and I will see you on the next episodes coming up, where I start to talk about soil and fertilizers, and then probably I'll divide that up into another video where I'll actually bring you along, and I'll show you how I plant my seeds.
Walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting strong, step by step. Clock's ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan.